Gate 32 buzzed with the restless energy of delayed travelers. Rolling suitcases thudded against tiled floors, flight updates echoed overhead, and frustration hung thick in the air. Among the crowd stood a black woman in her mid-30s, calm and composed, dressed in a charcoal blazer and neatly pressed slacks. Her name was Maya Reynolds, though no one there knew it yet. Maya stood at the counter, speaking politely to a young flight attendant. Her voice was steady, respectful. "I just want to confirm my seat assignment," she said. "The app shows one thing, but the screen says another." The attendant nodded, tapping at her keyboard. "One moment, ma'am." That was when a sharp, arrogant voice cut through the noise. "What seems to be the problem here?" Captain Richard Hale approached, uniform immaculate, expression tight with irritation. His captain's stripes gleamed under the terminal lights, and he wore them like a crown. Before the attendant could respond, Hale's eyes locked onto Maya. "You're holding up boarding," he said loudly. "Passengers need to follow instructions, not question them." Several people nearby turned to watch. Maya blinked, surprised by the tone. "I wasn't questioning anything," she replied calmly. "I was asking for clarification." Hale scoffed. "That's what they all say." A murmur rippled through the gate. "I paid for this ticket," Maya continued, keeping her composure. "I'm entitled to—" "Watch your attitude," Hale snapped, his voice rising. "I don't tolerate disrespect, especially from passengers who think rules don't apply to them." The words hit like a slap. The terminal fell quiet. Phones subtly lifted. A man in line frowned. A woman whispered, "Did he really say that?" Maya felt heat rise in her chest, not fear, not shame, but something deeper. Still, she refused to raise her voice. "I've been nothing but respectful. There's no reason to speak to me like this." Hale laughed, a short, cruel sound. "I decide who flies on my aircraft. Keep pushing and you won't be on this plane at all." The flight attendant froze, eyes darting between them. Maya took a slow breath. "Captain," she said quietly, "you might want to choose your next words carefully." That only amused him more. "Or what? You'll complain? File a little report? People like you always do." A visible line had been crossed. Maya looked around the watching crowd, then back at Hale. For a brief moment, something unreadable passed through her eyes. Not anger, not defeat, but resolve. "Fine," she said softly. "I'll take my seat." She stepped away from the counter, dignity intact, while Hale smirked as if he'd won. What he didn't know, what no one there knew, was that this moment would follow him far beyond Gate 32, because Maya Reynolds wasn't just another passenger, and by the time this flight landed, Captain Richard Hale's career would already be in freefall. If you're enjoying this powerful story, like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more gripping, life-changing stories like this.
Maya Reynolds settled into her seat as boarding continued, her face calm, her hands steady. To anyone watching, she looked like she had accepted what happened at the gate, but inside, her mind was sharp, focused, already moving several steps ahead. She had faced moments like this before. Not the shouting, not the public humiliation, but the assumption, the quiet belief that she was small, powerless, easy to dismiss. Years ago, that belief might have shaken her. Today, it only clarified things. As passengers filed past, Maya glanced out the window at the aircraft resting on the tarmac. She knew this plane. She knew its model, its safety record, even the compliance history of the airline operating it. Aviation wasn't just her industry, it was her responsibility. 2 rows ahead, Captain Richard Hale strode into the cockpit, shoulders squared, confidence untouched. He didn't look back. To him, the situation was over, another difficult passenger put in her place. Maya reached into her bag and removed her phone. She opened a secure app, one not available to the public. The screen required biometric access. A soft chime confirmed her entry. Her fingers moved quickly. She documented the incident in clear, precise language. Time, location, verbatim statements, witness presence, abuse of authority, potential discriminatory conduct. She attached nothing yet, not because she lacked evidence, but because she was patient. A flight attendant stopped beside her seat. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Ma'am, I'm sorry about earlier." Maya met her eyes and smiled gently. "Thank you. I know that wasn't easy to watch." The attendant hesitated. "He can be intense." "So I've noticed," replied Maya. As the plane pushed back from the gate, the captain's voice filled the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Hale speaking. We appreciate your cooperation today and remind all passengers that respectful behavior ensures a smooth flight for everyone." A pause, especially during boarding. Several passengers shifted uncomfortably. A few glanced toward Maya's seat. She didn't react. Instead, she typed one final line and saved the report as a draft. Status: pending escalation. At 35,000 feet, turbulence rattled the cabin, coffee sloshed, a child cried. But Maya remained still, eyes forward, thoughts controlled. She knew how this worked. Power rarely expects accountability, and when it always arrives quietly first. Halfway through the flight, Captain Hale stepped out of the cockpit to speak with a crew member. His eyes briefly met Maya's. He smirked. A challenge. Maya returned her attention to her phone. This time, she attached the file. She selected a recipient group known only to a handful of people in aviation world. Aviation Safety Oversight. Internal Review. She pressed send. No dramatics, no satisfaction, just procedure. The system time-stamped the submission automatically. Within minutes, an acknowledgement appeared. Case received, review initiated. Maya exhaled slowly. Captain Hale thought he had won a small, cruel victory at Gate 32. What he didn't understand was this: some passengers don't argue, they document, and they decide what happens next. By the time the wheels touched down, the review process would already be moving, far beyond his control. If this story has you hooked, like the video, share, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful, unforgettable stories. The aircraft cruised smoothly above the clouds, sunlight spilling through the windows like nothing in the world below could touch it. For most passengers, the earlier tension had faded into the background hum of the engines. For Captain Richard Hale, it hadn't. He stood in the cockpit, one hand resting confidently on the controls, replaying the incident at the gate. In his mind, he hadn't done anything wrong. He had asserted authority, maintained order. That was his job. And if a few feelings were hurt along the way, that was the price of leadership, or so he believed. "Cabin secure," the first officer said casually. Hale nodded, then pressed the intercom button. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice calm and practiced, "we're currently cruising at 35,000 feet. The weather ahead is clear, and we expect a smooth flight." A routine pause. Then he added, "We appreciate passengers who understand that aviation safety depends on cooperation and attitude." Another pause, longer this time. "Disruptive behavior on the ground or in the air will never be tolerated." The words echoed through the cabin. Several heads turned. A few passengers exchanged glances. The message felt pointed. Maya Reynolds sat upright in her seat, hands folded neatly in her lap. She didn't flinch. She didn't look around. But she understood exactly what he was doing. It wasn't an announcement. It was a warning. A flight attendant passed by slowly, eyes apologetic. "Can I get you anything, ma'am?" Maya smiled faintly. "Just water, thank you." As the attendant walked away, the man seated beside Maya leaned slightly toward her. "That was unnecessary," he whispered. "I saw what happened earlier." Maya nodded once. "Thank you." She waited. Minutes later, the water arrived. So did her decision. Maya pressed the call button. "Yes, ma'am?" the flight attendant asked, her voice cautious. "I'd like to report a concern regarding the captain's conduct, specifically the boarding incident and the in-flight announcement that followed." The attendant stiffened. I'll need to inform him." "I understand. Please log my statement exactly as I say it." As the attendant walked away, tension crept through the cabin like static before a storm. From the cockpit, Hale received the message. He didn't hesitate. Moments later, he emerged, his expression tight, jaw clenched. He stopped beside Maya's seat, towering slightly, his presence deliberate. "You trying to escalate this now?" he asked in a low voice. "I'm documenting it. There's a difference." Hale leaned closer. "You should let it go. Filing complaints doesn't end well for people." Maya looked up at him, eyes steady, unblinking. "Are you threatening me, Captain?" He scoffed. "Don't flatter yourself. You don't have that kind of influence." For the first time since Gate 32, Maya allowed herself a small, controlled smile. "That's where you're wrong," she said quietly. A nearby passenger cleared his throat. Someone across the aisle raised a phone, pretending to text. Hale straightened abruptly, realizing too late how public this had become. "Enjoy the rest of your flight," he said stiffly, turning away. Maya watched him disappear back into the cockpit. She picked up her phone and added one final note to the case file. "In-flight intimidation observed. Witnesses present." Then she locked the screen. Captain Hale believed altitude put him above consequences. He was about to learn that no one is untouchable, no matter how high they fly. If this story is gripping you, make sure to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what happens next. The plane touched down just after sunset, the wheels screeching against the runway as the city lights flickered below. Passengers applauded softly, relieved to be on the ground. For Captain Richard Hale, it felt like the end of an unpleasant but forgettable flight. He was wrong. As the aircraft taxied toward the gate, Hale reached for his phone. It vibrated almost instantly. One notification, then another. By the time the engines powered down, his screen was lit with messages marked urgent. His confidence faltered. "What's with that face?" the first officer asked casually. "Nothing," Hale muttered, though his pulse had already quickened. The cabin doors opened. Passengers began to stand, gathering bags, the usual post-flight rush. Hale remained in his seat, scrolling. Subject, mandatory review appearance required. Sender, aviation safety oversight, internal affairs. His throat tightened. This wasn't a customer complaint forwarded to management. This wasn't routine feedback. This was formal. Across the cabin, Maya Reynolds rose calmly from her seat. She waited her turn, unhurried, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Hale finally stood and stepped into the aisle, just as Maya reached his row. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he exhaled sharply. "You did this." Maya looked at him, expression neutral. "I documented facts. What happens after that isn't my decision." "You went behind my back," he snapped, keeping his voice low. "I used the proper channels, exactly as you would advise passengers to do." Hale's jaw tightened. "You have no idea what you've started." Maya reached into her bag and pulled out a simple, unassuming card. She held it out. "Actually," she said quietly, "I do." He hesitated before taking it. His eyes scanned the text. Dr. Maya Reynolds, Senior Compliance Director, Aviation Safety Oversight. The color drained from his face. That's not possible," he stammered. Maya met his gaze. "It is, and it's accurate." A uniformed airport supervisor approached. "Captain Hale, we need a word with you before you leave." Hale swallowed hard. "Is this really necessary?" "Yes," the supervisor replied. "Immediately." Passengers slowed, sensing something was wrong. A few whispered. Someone discreetly filmed. Maya stepped aside, giving Hale space, though he no longer towered over her. In that moment, the power he had wielded so easily at Gate 32 had evaporated. "This is ridiculous," Hale muttered. "I was maintaining order." Order doesn't excuse humiliation, especially not in public. The supervisor gestured again. "Sir?" Hale hesitated, then followed, shoulders stiff, every step heavier than the last. Maya watched him go, not with satisfaction, but with certainty. She knew what came next. The review process was unforgiving. Witness statements, video footage, crew reports, a full audit of past behavior. This wasn't about revenge, it was about accountability. As Maya exited the aircraft, the night air felt cooler, clearer. She walked through the terminal unnoticed, just another traveler to everyone else. But behind her, phones were already ringing, emails were already circulating, and Captain Richard Hale's spotless record had just cracked right down the middle. The flight had landed, but for him, the fall was only beginning. If you're enjoying this powerful story, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel to see what happens next. By the next morning, Captain Richard Hale was no longer listed on the active flight schedule. At first, he told himself it was temporary, a procedural pause, nothing more. Airlines reviewed complaints all the time. He had seen colleagues go through it and come out untouched. Experience, seniority, reputation, those things usually mattered. But this time felt different. His phone rang at 8:12 a.m. "Captain Hale," a calm voice said, "this is internal affairs with the Aviation Safety Oversight Board. Your license is under formal review. You are required to appear before a compliance panel within 72 hours. Hale's mouth went dry. On what grounds? Abuse of authority, discriminatory conduct, and in-flight intimidation, the voice replied. Multiple witness statements have been logged. The call ended. No argument, no appeal. Across town, Maya Reynolds sat at a long glass table in a secure conference room. Screens around her displayed transcripts, timestamps, and still images pulled from passenger videos. She wasn't leading the meeting, she never did when she was involved, but her documentation sat at the center of the discussion. Her report is meticulous, one reviewer noted, verbatim quotes, time markers, crew confirmation. Another nodded, and this isn't his first complaint. A new file opened on the screen. Captain Richard Hale, prior incidents. Minor issues, dismissed concerns, informal warnings, a pattern that had never been fully examined, until now. Maya listened silently. Back at his apartment, Hale paced the floor, replaying every word he had spoken at Gate 32. He tried to justify them, stress, delays, difficult passengers, but the words sounded hollow now. At the airline's headquarters, the flight attendant from Gate 32 sat nervously across from an investigator. "Did the captain use language you felt was inappropriate?" she was asked. "Yes," she answered softly, and it wasn't the first time. Passenger interviews followed. A businessman, a college student, a mother traveling with her son. Their stories matched. Same tone, same arrogance, same sense of power unchecked. By evening, Hale's email inbox filled with automated notices. Access to flight systems, temporarily suspended. Uniform and ID badge, return required. Pending outcome of investigation. He sank into a chair. Meanwhile, Maya walked out of the oversight building into the fading sunlight. She felt no triumph, only resolve. Systems didn't change through outrage, they changed through records, through consistency, through people willing to say, "This isn't acceptable." That night, Hale drafted a statement he never sent. Apologies blurred with excuses. He deleted it all. Deep down, he knew. This wasn't about one flight. This was about years of behavior finally catching up. 3 days later, the panel convened. 5 members, 1 empty chair where Hale would sit, and 1 file, thick, undeniable, bearing the name Richard Hale. The investigation had officially begun, and there was no autopilot that could save him now. If this story is keeping you hooked, make sure to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for the powerful conclusion ahead.
The review room was silent, except for the faint hum of the air system. Captain Richard Hale sat at the end of the long table, his uniform replaced by a plain suit. No stripes, no authority, just a man facing the weight of his own actions. 5 panel members sat across from him. A screen lit up. "Captain Hale," the chairwoman began, "this review concerns your conduct on Flight 782, as well as a pattern of prior incidents. You will answer clearly and honestly." Hale nodded stiffly. "Yes, ma'am." The footage played first. Grainy phone video from Gate 32 showed Hale leaning forward, voice raised, finger pointing. The words were unmistakable. The crowd's reaction was visible: shock, discomfort, disbelief. Hale shifted in his chair. Next came the in-flight audio. "We appreciate cooperative passengers who understand that safety depends on attitude." The implication was clear. "Was this announcement directed at a specific passenger?" the chairwoman asked. "No," Hale said quickly. "It was general." A panelist leaned forward. "Then why did multiple witnesses report eye contact, pauses, and tone indicating otherwise?" Hale hesitated. "That wasn't my intention." "Intent doesn't erase impact," another panelist replied. The flight attendant's testimony followed. Her voice trembled slightly as she described the moment. "He used language that felt targeted. When she stood her ground, he escalated." Passenger statements echoed the same story. Then came the file Hale hadn't known existed, a timeline of past complaints, dismissed, minimized, ignored. "This demonstrates a pattern," the chairwoman said calmly, "one that culminated on Flight 782. Hale clenched his hands. "I've flown for 22 years. I've kept people safe." "No one is questioning your technical skill," she replied. "We are questioning your judgment." The room fell quiet. Finally, the chairwoman spoke again. "Captain Richard Hale, effective immediately, your pilot license is suspended for a minimum of 24 months. Hale's breath caught. "During this period," she continued, "you will complete mandatory behavioral training, cultural competency evaluation, and a supervised requalification process. Reinstatement is not guaranteed." The words hit harder than turbulence ever could. "This decision will be entered into the permanent aviation record," she concluded. The screen went dark. Across town, Maya Reynolds read the decision summary from her office. She closed the file without comment. This wasn't personal. This was what accountability looked like. News of the suspension spread quietly within the aviation community. Pilots talked. Airlines took notice. Training protocols were reviewed. At home, Hale stared at his framed certificates, once symbols of pride. Now they felt like relics from another life. He remembered Maya's calm voice. "You might want to choose your next words carefully." For the first time, he understood. Power wasn't something you claimed. It was something you proved every single day. And he had failed. The sky he once ruled felt farther away than ever. If this story is powerful to you, please like the video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for the final chapters of this unforgettable journey. The aviation world moved on quickly. New schedules were posted, replacement captains filled empty slots. Another name quietly disappeared from the roster. But for Maya Reynolds, the impact of what happened didn't fade, it settled. She stood in a conference room weeks later, presenting updated compliance recommendations to a room full of executives and regulators. No one mentioned Gate 32. No one needed to. The lesson was already written into policy. "Authority must never be confused with entitlement," Maya said calmly, advancing the slide. "Public trust depends on how power is exercised under pressure." Heads nodded. Notes were taken. No applause followed. There never was. That afternoon, Maya walked through the airport again, not as a passenger, but as an observer. She watched a young pilot patiently explain a delay to a frustrated traveler. She noticed a flight attendant kneel to speak gently to a nervous child. Small things, important things. Near a coffee stand, an older janitor paused when he recognized her. He had been at Gate 32 that day. "You handled yourself with dignity," he said quietly. Most people would have exploded. Maya smiled softly. Anger rarely fixes systems. He nodded. "But you fixed something." Across the city, Captain Richard Hale sat in a mandatory training room surrounded by pilots half his age. No one recognized him now. No special treatment, no deference. Just instruction. A facilitator spoke plainly. "Professional authority demands restraint. Every word you use carries weight." Hale listened. Really listened. For the first time in years, he wasn't in control of the room. When the session ended, he lingered, staring at the screen where a single sentence remained. "Respect is not optional." That night, Hale drafted another message, this one shorter. No excuses, no explanations. He never sent it to Maya. He knew better. Some lessons didn't require a response. Weeks turned into months. Maya continued her work quietly. Complaints dropped, training programs expanded, oversight tightened. No headlines, no interviews, just change. One evening, as she waited for a flight of her own, a young woman approached hesitantly. "Excuse me," she said. "I saw what happened to that captain a while back. My sister works in aviation. She says things are different now." Maya looked up. "Different how?" "They're more careful, more respectful." Maya nodded. "Good." The boarding announcement sounded. Maya stood, gathering her bag. She blended into the line of passengers, just another traveler again. But somewhere in the system, her impact remained. Because real power doesn't announce itself. It corrects quietly. And sometimes, the strongest victory is walking away without needing recognition. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone, and subscribe to the channel for the final part of this powerful story. Months later, Gate 32 looked no different than it had that day. Flights were still delayed, announcements still echoed, passengers still rushed, complained, waited. To most people, it was just another gate in a busy airport. But within the aviation industry, Gate 32 had become an unspoken reference point. Training instructors mentioned it without naming it. Compliance officers cited it in case studies. Pilots heard about it in quiet conversations that always ended the same way. Choose your words carefully. Captain Richard Hale sat in a small office far from any runway, staring at a letter that could decide his future. His request for conditional reinstatement had been reviewed. The response was brief. Application received, further evaluation required. No timeline, no promise. He folded the letter slowly. For the first time in his career, flying wasn't guaranteed. And for the first time in his life, he understood why. He thought of Maya Reynolds, not with anger, but clarity. She hadn't raised her voice. She hadn't threatened him. She had simply let the system work the way it was meant to. And the system had listened. Across the country, Maya boarded another flight. No special treatment, no recognition. She took her seat and opened a document on her tablet. The title read, "Passenger Dignity and Authority Use, Final Draft." The policy would soon become standard across multiple airlines. It included one line she had personally insisted on. Authority exists to protect, not to dominate. As the plane climbed into the sky, Maya looked out the window. The clouds stretched endlessly, calm and bright. She thought about how easily moments of disrespect were dismissed, how often silence was mistaken for weakness, and how dangerous that assumption could be. Back at Gate 32, the young pilot hesitated before responding sharply to a frustrated traveler. He caught himself, lowered his voice, explained instead of asserting. The traveler relaxed. The situation passed. That was the real outcome, not the suspension, not the paperwork. Change. Weeks later, Hale attended his final evaluation session. The facilitator asked him one question: "What did you learn?" Hale answered without hesitation that skill without humility is a liability. The facilitator nodded. Outside, the sky was clear. Hale didn't know if he'd ever fly again, but he knew this much: if he did, it would be differently. Because power isn't proven by how loudly you speak, it's proven by how carefully you listen. And dignity, once demanded, has a way of echoing far beyond one flight, one gate, one moment. Gate 32 returned to being just a number, but the lesson born there, that one would keep flying. If you stayed with this story till the end, please like the video, share it to spread this powerful message, and subscribe to the channel for more unforgettable stories that challenge power and inspire change.